Hi, everyone. Welcome to Eat, Move, Think. I'm your host today, Dr. Andrew Miners. I'm the Clinical and Operations Director here at MedCan for sports medicine, therapy, rehabilitation, and fitness. So basically everything to do with muscles and joints. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about the concept of being a weekend warrior and how that might relate to your health and fitness. So what is a weekend warrior? Well, I think it depends on who you talk to. Sometimes people will think, for example, I could consider myself a weekend warrior. I do a lot of weekend sports. I play men's league slow pitch and I play men's league touch football and I do a social recreational volleyball league. All of these things I do on a regular basis, but doesn't mean that you're meeting the amount of physical activity or exercise that might be the most beneficial for your health and well-being. I often look at my softball team, and I have gentlemen that I play with that are in their, the late 50s to even early 70s, and that's the only activity they do. And so they show up and they do a slow run to first base and then get another runner to come in and run the rest of the bases. And obviously that's not meeting the minimal recommended Canadian guideline for exercise of 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity. So you really have to assess on the activities you're doing. Why are you doing them? Are you doing them for fun, for the social engagement, all of which are really good reasons. But if your goal is to improve your health and longevity, maybe you need to be doing something a little bit more. Another way to look at being a weekend warrior is trying to get all your exercise in a weekend. For example, hey, you're too busy throughout the day with family demands and work demands and other demands on your life that you're like, the only time I can exercise is on the weekend. And so I get all of my exercise in on the weekend. Maybe you go for a run on Saturday and Sunday, or maybe you do a cycle on the weekend. You go for a 2 or 3 hour cycling on the weekend. And sometimes I get questions from patients, is that still enough? Is that healthy? Even though I'm only exercising 1 or 2 days a week, is that enough? Is that still getting health benefits? So to answer that question, in general terms, the answer is yes. If I was going to talk about, is any amount of exercise a good thing? The answer is, of course, yes, it is. Doing something is always better than doing nothing. But, if you're looking at trying to optimize your health and longevity, then yeah, there are some guidelines or some general tips that you could follow to make sure that you're meeting those requirements. So, the general recommendation from the Canadian guideline on fitness is to engage in 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise per week, right? Or thinking about 30 minutes, 2.5 hours in a week, or 30 minutes 5 days a week. But sometimes you can't do that 30 minutes 5 days a week. Sometimes you might be doing that full 2.5 hours on a weekend. You might do a 2.5 hour cycle. You might do an hour run 2 days a week. Those things are still good. If you're meeting that minimum expectation, studies have shown that you're still getting a significant health benefit that might benefit your mental health, your cognitive functioning, and your cardiovascular and muscular system, which is really good. And again, sometimes that's all you can get done because you are so busy. In general terms, other tips to think about, especially if you have more time throughout the week, is about variety, engaging in a variety of exercise activities. Sometimes doing the same exercise activity, for example, running always or cycling always, is still good, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it can lead to either overuse injuries or repetitive strain injuries or even imbalances within your body that may be detrimental to you or less optimal for you in the long run. So getting a variety of exercise engagement activities is also recommended. And then, always including some level of strength or resistance training is also important to include. So instead of just doing a cardiovascular activity like doing long walks on the weekend or a hike on the weekend, make sure you do some body weight or implement related resistance training to balance out your overall fitness. And the third component to try to consider is a flexibility routine. You're doing something to maintain your mobility of your joints and your muscles and tissues. So it's okay to be a weekend warrior, to play those sports, but to maintain your health and fitness and longevity for those sports like baseball and football and volleyball and golf, it's important to keep up some regular physical activity like flexibility, strength, and cardiovascular training so you can continue to enjoy those sports as you move through your life, as you get older throughout the years. And again, for those busy people who only have time on the weekends to do, regular or structured physical activity, whether it's a bike or run or play more sports, you might be saying, well, hey, I don't do anything through the other 5 days of the week. And is that bad for me? And kind of, sort of, maybe is sort of how I'd answer that. We do know that we want to minimize sedentary behavior. There's other guidelines, such as the Canadian Movement Guidelines, that outside of the 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise, we want to minimize sedentary behavior. They talk about minimizing screen time to 2 and 2.5 hours per day, minimizing sitting time to upwards no more than 8 hours in a given 24-hour period. So it's important, even if you can't get out for regular or structured exercise throughout the week, it's important to be as active as possible. And, a simple tip to think about is move yourself. right? So take the stairs instead of the elevator, take the stairs instead of the escalator. One of the things I like to think about, you see the signs at the front of buildings and restaurants and stores, wheelchair access, people that have maybe mobility issues to, park as close to the door as possible. I would argue that they need signs at the back of the parking lot that says, here's the parking spot for people that want to live a healthy, long life, so that you're parking at the back of the parking lot and you're walking further throughout the day. Anything like that to increase your relative level of activity throughout the day is going to be beneficial for your health. That's things you can do. Do some bodyweight squats in the office, get up and move more often, having walking meetings, do a video chat such as this. Instead of me sitting down, I could be doing this standing up and moving around. So all of those solutions help to increase the overall average level of activity that you have in a day. Other times people might struggle with, if they're just doing a burst of physical activity on the weekend, like playing sports, like in my, being a softball player and not doing anything all week and then going and playing an hour of softball, risk of injury can sometimes be there. Again, if you're not doing something on a regular basis to prepare your body to tolerate the loads and forces and activities that you want to do, then you might be prone to injury because your body's not prepped and ready to do that level of work that you're asking it to do spontaneously on a weekend. And so that can be a risk of being a weekend warrior. Trying to engage in some regular physical activity throughout a week, regardless of whether it's during the week or on a weekend, is really beneficial to your health. And again, when I talk about health, it's your whole health, your mental health, your cognitive health, your physical health. All of these things have impacts by doing regular physical activity. A lot of people, when they consider exercise, think about the heart and lungs or their muscles and joints, and they don't really consider mental health as a direct benefit of doing regular physical activity. And there is a wealth of recent research, and even not that recent, but it's ongoing research that proves that being active and being in regularly engaged in physical exercise improves your mental health. So it helps to manage anxiety, depression, mental acuity, mental function, mental sharpness, and sleep, because again, being regular in activity helps you have better sleep, which also helps you have better mental functioning. So this is all linked to healthy longevity and wellness, or improving your well span or your lifespan is really important. So things to consider, that other tips to consider, is get out and move, do stuff, right? Move yourself. Get up, and if you can, take the stairs instead of the escalator, that type of thing. Also, make it social if you can. Exercise with a friend, join a club, join a walking club, something that is social, that is also beneficial for your health and wellness, and particularly your mental health. And whenever possible, try to do it outside, or at least in a variety of settings, so you're getting that stimulus from the outdoors, or from not always being down in the basement on a treadmill by yourself. So that's still good. Again, any kind of exercise is still good for you, but you can optimize your benefit from exercise by being outside, being with people, even listening to music that you like while you're exercising. All of these things can have an overall improved impact on your mental health and physical health. Again, when we talk about weekend warriors, a lot of time it's because you don't have the time throughout the week. And that can be a challenge for a lot of reasons, and or leading to why you might miss working out on a weekend. And there, again, you miss a longer period of time between exercise or activity. So some things that we know also help is scheduling. Right? Scheduling the time in your calendar to do your exercise or activity. A great way to do that is to join a club, to join a group, or engage in personal training, where you've made a commitment to a personal trainer, to someone who's going to help you on your fitness journey. And that's really important. So something that is regular and scheduled. Hey, it's in my calendar. I've got to go and get a workout. And so that's a really great option for you, is to work with a personal trainer. And again, here at MedCan, we have excellent personal trainers. I would argue some of the best in the business, especially in the downtown GTA, that are here, willing, able, and have an immense amount of knowledge to help you on your health and exercise path. So that's it for today's episode. I've been Dr. Andrew Miners. I hope you've enjoyed watching or listening to this podcast. All the best in your exercise and movement throughout the rest of the day. Now get up and move.
This podcast episode is intended to provide general information about health and wellness only, and is not designed or intended to constitute or be used as a substitute for medical advice, treatment, or diagnosis. You should always talk to your MedCan healthcare provider for individual medical advice, diagnosis, and treatment, including your specific health and wellness needs. This podcast is based on the information available at the time of preparation and is only accurate and current as of that date. Source information and recommendations are subject to change based on scientific evidence as it evolves over time. MedCan is not responsible for future changes or updates to the information and recommendations, and assumes no obligation to update based on future developments. Reference to or mention of specific treatments or therapies does not constitute or imply a recommendation for endorsement. The links provided within the associated document are to assist the reader with any specific information highlighted. Any third-party links are not endorsed by MedCan.